Okay. All right, all right, all right. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Kimberly Newman with the SBA Capital Business, Women's Business Center. Can I get it out? Capital Region Women's Business Center. And
Hey.
we and we are so excited for you to join us for this session of Ask the Expert, where we bring in industry and community thought leaders and mavericks that are here to inform and support you starting your business. And today we have, we can't even really encapsulate what he is to our ecosystem, but I will try my best to say the comparable, Mr. Larry Webb with the SBA. He has joined us to talk about, the SBA and how we partner and how we leverage resources to expand your reach. So, Larry, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Kim. I can't call you Kim, right?
You can call me Kim, Kimberly, whatever you need.
Um, Thank you so much for having me this morning. It's great to be here. I'm excited to be here. This is a great series that you have, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you're with the SBA. You are the regional district director, correct?
Well, district director, yes. I cover the DMV, yes.
Have I just assigned you a new title and said you're just going to take over
Yeah,
the
and
whole?
I had to correct you because there is a regional administrator, and I didn't want him to think I was trying to step into his shoes.
Okay, we won't do that today.
But
Um,
it is the capital region. Yes, it is.
Perfect,
I am over the capital.
perfect. Tell us a little bit about your role and what you do at the SBA.
Well, my role is simply to obviously manage my office. I have about 20 people in my office dedicated to outreach, and then some of my office is dedicated to outreach. I, of course, have admin people. The lion's share of the people in my office actually work with our 8A business development program, which is one of the certification programs that I'm sure we're going to talk about today. But that's the lion's share of my office. Um, my role is really outreach and communication and building that ecosystem and leveraging our partners and being the face of the Small Business Administration for the DMV. And so that's a lot of what I do. This type of work, working with chambers, working with other resource partners, working with DC, Virginia, and Maryland in their separate sort of political levels and cities and counties and what have you. So yeah.
Perfect. And I would be remiss if I did not say that, Wacif surely thanks the SBA for all of the support that you have given us and how we partner with you, and also helping to get this Women's Business Center, which is a much needed resource for the Capital Region. So we are super
Absolutely.
excited to be a part of your ecosystem. How did you get into this work? I mean, what did your background look like that led you to the space?
Before I answer that question, I have to say that we, the SBA, and particularly WMADO, the Washington Metropolitan Area District Office, if I say that later, WMADO, you'll know what I'm talking about. That's the DMV's SBA office. We are super excited to be working with Wacif. We had already been working with Wacif on some of our loan programs and other outreach, and just as a community partner. Um, but to have the Women's Business Center located there and having you helm it is such a joy for us. Unfortunately, there have been lots of ebb and flow of the Women's Business Center, Women's Business Centers, and where it was housed before, not necessarily housed poorly, but the turnover in leadership. And so we really didn't have uh, a long track record, and we're just really looking forward to Wacif having it with the history of the organization, the already focus on women's business processes and having cohorts go through that. There's a natural synergy there, and so before I talk about anything else, I just had to say how excited we are, and we look forward to many years of success and engagement and collaboration. That being said, Um, I
Thank you.
no, you're very welcome. Um have been. I used to call myself a meander. My career was sort of a meandering career, and now I just think I was an adventurer. And that's sort of what led me here. Um, um, my degrees are in history and political science as an undergrad, and then I went to law school. I got out of law school and thought I would never practice. And so I didn't take the bar for 7 years after I got out of law school. Um, because I just didn't think it was for me. I thought that was a mistake and I'll move on. And so during that period, I had lots of odd jobs that don't even require the radar. But one of the things that I ended up doing was starting a nonprofit for LGBTQ folks in Ohio back in the 90s. And I don't probably have to say much more about the fact that this was 97. It's Ohio. Um, there's no Facebook. There's no social media. We were out delivering snail mail for programs and what have you. But we built that in from, sort of a thought with a buddy of mine and I, um, to an actual nonprofit. Initially, we thought it was going to be a for-profit business. Um, and that nonprofit ended up having a youth program. We ended up having a $300,000 budget, which for us was huge. And we rented some office space, and then we ended up having daily programs. So we went from a annual Pride event in '97 to being a full-fledged nonprofit with daily activities and bookkeepers and employees and contracts and all the things. And it's interesting that 3 years ago, I'm jumping ahead. Obviously, I obviously started practicing law. Maybe I didn't. Obviously, started practicing. Eventually, started practicing law for the city of Cleveland. I was a defense attorney in Columbus for several years. I worked for the city of Cleveland as a civil litigator for several years, and then took that and came to SBA because I had worked on one of the large cases I worked on in the city of Cleveland was disbarring a contractor who was using front companies and committing fraud against the city. And it was the first case of its kind that the city had ever really prosecuted. This is a huge contractor. I mean, they did the airport, they did all, they had some taken major roads and what have you. So um, that was not my case alone, but I was sort of the person who led all of the behind the scene things that had to happen to get that case to the point of litigation, even prepping the mayor of the city for to testify. And because of that, when I applied for the job in DC, they saw a synergy because they were moving toward enforcement with the SBA. Came to the SBA and have worked here for the last 13 years. 10 of those years was as an attorney doing labor and employment, fraud, waste, and abuse work during the Obama administration. That was their sort of tagline. And, everything was about fraud, waste, and abuse during the Obama years. Um, and then moved to public-private partnerships, which we call, which we use to leverage a tool that the SBA has. And that's sort of when I was seen more in the agency. Behind a lot of the stuff I did initially was sort of behind the scenes and sometimes at a high level. But I got seen more when I was doing the public-private partnerships because that was across the agency. And several years ago, I was asked to apply for this position, which had not been openly competed for over 20 years. And this was post-COVID. I'm gonna wrap this up here for you so we can move on. But this was post-COVID, and I was very interested in seeing what I could do to thread the needle for small businesses, particularly small businesses who had not had an opportunity to take advantage of PPP or EIDL. We heard so many stories of people who weren't able to take advantage of those because they didn't know the system. They weren't. They didn't do banking. They didn't have connections with banks, particularly during that first tranche when everybody got money that was already banking with the banks that put the money out. And I thought I have a skill here. I know how to um, speak English to people as opposed to government. And I'm interested in helping folks in our community that may not have gotten a fair shake. And that's ultimately what the SBA is about, is to help small businesses that otherwise would not have opportunities. That's what our contracting program is about. That's what our loan programs are about, is about leveling the playing field. And so it felt like a good thing for me to do. And so I stepped from out of the shadows again, to sort of leap into the spotlight. I have to say it wasn't exactly the most comfortable experience doing that. I liked my anonymity of working in the background, but over the last 3 years, I've gotten more and more comfortable um, um, standing in front of folks and folks taking pictures of me,
It
which is
suits you.
nice.
It
Yeah,
suits you. So step
I
into
appreciate
it.
that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, but I think that background, and I did buffer some time in because I knew with such a healthy background, it was going to take some time to kind of go through. But it's necessary to hear that because one of the things I love not only about Wacif, but also the SBA and some of the other partners that we have in our ecosystem is that they're intentional about the people that they bring in to support these businesses. You having such a healthy, well-rounded background in that space lends credibility to the advice or the recommendations and the programmatic support that you build in to kind of help navigate their path. So thank you for, giving us that and that
No,
background.
it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Tell us tell us a little bit about before we jump into the open discussion. I wanted you to just quickly, you touched on it a little bit. Tell everyone what exactly is the SBA. I've heard many different variations from the general public.
Yes.
Let's hear it from the voice.
Well,
What is the SBA? What do
yeah,
they do?
I appreciate that. First of all, the SBS, the Small Business Administration. That's number one. It is not uncommon for people to say the Small Business Association. So it is the Small Business Administration. It is a federal government agency. It's And more importantly than that, it is the only federal government agency that is entirely dedicated to the advocacy, the advancement, and the support of small businesses. The USA has about 30 to 33 million small businesses. And the SBA is the voice of those small businesses at all levels of government. Since the Obama administration, continued in the Trump administration, continued in the Biden administration, the administrator of the SBA is a cabinet level secretary, well, not secretary, but a cabinet level official. This means that when all of the cabinet folks are together, or even when they're communicating, there's a voice for small businesses happening at that conversation. So if a conversation is happening around international trade, if a conversation is happening around tariffs, if a conversation is happening around healthcare, if a conversation is happening around tax being had around taxes, etc., there is a person in that room. In this case, Administrator Guzman, who is advocating for small businesses, saying, "How does that policy help or harm small businesses?" That is a key role in any administration, regardless of party. And that has continued. And it is obviously our hope that continues for many years to come, because that is key to making sure that small businesses aren't an afterthought. That as the policy is being formed, as it's been discussed, that there is small businesses in mind, because everything affects all of these policies across the board. As I said, from healthcare to employment law to supply chains, et cetera. All of that is affected. So that's number one, advocacy on the part of small businesses. Um, the sort of more bread and butter day-to-day things that the SBA does is that we help businesses access capital. Now, we don't do direct loans. So many people come up to an events or after, and I try to say this in my talking points so they know that we don't do loans directly, but we do advocate. And what we do is we guarantee loans. And I'll just put it very simply. If you are a small business, and let's say you're going after $100,000, and you go to a lender, and the lender is like, I'm not really sure. You haven't been in business as long as we would like. Maybe your books are good, but we're not really sure that you can pay back this loan. If they are an SBA lender, they can go to the SBA and say, we are willing to lend to this party, to this business, to this small business, if you will guarantee it. And what that guarantee looks like is the lender will then, if we agree and we go through the process, they'll get back 75% of that loan if it goes south, up to 75%. Which means that on a $100,000 loan, the lender is guaranteed $75,000. Well, that makes them feel a great deal better about their risk. And that's what, and I don't want to get too far into it because we're going to talk about this potentially later, but that's what you really need to understand as a small business owner, particularly when talking to lenders, is they are risk adverse. They don't want to take a risk. It's like an insurance company. Insurance companies really don't want to take a risk. They want to get more money in than they put out, which is why sometimes when you ask for a claim, they're like, are you sure that's how that happened? They're going through a lot of things and they drop you if you get too many claims, right? Well,
Yep.
a lender is this is a business. It's not a small business. This is a business and they are leveraging risk. And so as you approach this process, know that that's what they're thinking about. They're thinking about, are they going to get their money back with interest? And if they're not going to get their money back with interest, they're going to be less likely to do it. And that's where the SBA comes in. Then we can try to create lots of different policies and programs to support that access to capital, right? And so we have microloans, which are $50,000 and less through nonprofits. We're constantly trying to find ways to enhance that loan portfolio, that bucket for small businesses, tweaking it to make it more attractive to lenders and the credit unions and to community-based lenders. We also do certification programs, which gets people into government contracting at a very high level. 23% of the $700 billion that we spend every year as a country, 23% of that must go to small businesses. And those small businesses include lots of different categories. That's vets, that's women-owned businesses, that's economic and socially disadvantaged businesses, that's place-based businesses, such as businesses that are in hub zones, which typically, once again, are economically impacted areas. So if you have a business in an area and you hire a percentage, I think a third, 35% of your employees are from that area, then you are allowed to be certified. And what those certifications do at a very high level is diminish your competition. So you're not, if this is a small business contract, you're not then competing against Amazon and Facebook and Booz Allen and and Deloitte and Touche and so on and so forth. You're competing against other small businesses. And in some cases, it allows you to be what they'll call a sole source contract, which means if you show up to the agency, and this is all federal agency stuff, and say, I have a innovative solution for you, and they go, yeah, absolutely, and you're certified, they can just pick you in certain instances. And once again, it's too complicated. And the last thing that we do, and I think the most important thing that we do, is business acumen. It is first and foremost, letting folks know about all of these opportunities that exist, and then teaching and demystifying. So if you don't know about cost accounting, or you don't know about marketing to the government, or you don't know about how to take advantage of those government contracts, we as an agency and as a government are dedicated to um, peeling that orange for you, allowing you to see the fleshy middle, allowing you to see the opportunities that exist out there, and then preparing you for those opportunities um, in the future. So, contracting, capital, counseling.
The three main areas that any new business needs.
Yes.
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 Yes. And so if you didn't know before today, you know
Yes.
now, utilize that resource. They are your
Absolutely.
advocate, they are your voice, and they are an essential part of this ecosystem on the ground level, on the county level, on the city level, to help filter those resources into the community, directly into your lap and into your email. So, we're going to continue this conversation, but before we do, I just want you to keep in the back of your mind that after this call, you need to connect with your SBA and your local organizations, including the WBCs, so that we can get the continuity of services going.
Absolutely.
Um, so now let's get into the open chat. So
Yes.
now that you've given us a beautiful explanation of who and what and how the SBA operates in this space, what are some of the key programs that are currently available that help the small businesses in our district, and how have they made an impact? How have those programs made a significant impact?
Well, obviously, one of the main programs that we have is we'll start with the WBC, the Women's Business Centers, um, the SBA, and I'm gonna try to keep these relatively short now so that we can get through more questions. Um, we have four main resource partners that we provide grants to support the SBA, and those are the Women's Business Centers, the Small Business Development Centers, the Veterans Business Outreach Centers, and the and SCORE, and they um, that's counseling and mentoring. That's that sort of business acumen level of preparing small businesses, and they do it in different ways. That's why we have different ones. But at a high level, I would advise all small businesses in the reach of this program to go to sba.gov and hit on our local assistance tab and you put your zip code in, and you will find out all of those resources within 5, 10, 25 miles of you. If you're in the DMV, there's something located. Wacif is in the Northeast. The SBDC is at Howard. We have programs at Bowie State. We have programs at University of Maryland, College Park, Montgomery County, at George Mason. Not all of them are at colleges, but several of them are because colleges are um, interested in entrepreneurship, interested in that type of work, and so there is something out there for you, and these are free or low cost. At the very least, get on their mailing list so that you are hearing about their webinars, that you're hearing about their free programming, and you will likely see something that is a gap in your business, even if you're just thinking about a business, that will help you. And that is an easy way to get involved. And as you see more things, you may then ask for a counselor. You may then go in for a one-on-one counseling session and go from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how do you collaborate? You spoke a little bit about it before, of course, talking about the four centers. And we did an amazing event at Howard. They hosted a great marketplace on Friday, and we attended.
Oh,
So all of
fantastic.
those organizations collaborate together to make sure that there's a continuous 360 in support of the SBA programs. But how do you collaborate with those organizations to provide the resources, especially to underserved communities?
Actually, it's a really good question. We collaborate with those four, and those are our what we call resource partners. They are on our website because we have a relationship with them, an agreement with them. But that is not the only organizations that we collaborate with. I shouldn't say I want to say obviously, but it's not obvious, but it is true. we're collaborating with the DC government. We're collaborating with the Prince George's government. We're collaborating with Montgomery County and Fairfax and Alexandria with their economic development arms. Every city or every city, county, and state is interested in small businesses. I guess that's the first thing that we should say to the listeners, because you may not know that, right? Your city has an economic development arm. And if they don't, they are connected with the county or the region's economic development arm, because no city, state, or government exists without a small business. And if they do, then they have really high taxes. That's just the way that works, right? If you are a resident only community, and they do exist, they are very wealthy and they have very high taxes, because otherwise it doesn't work, right? So every city is interested in small businesses. They're interested in taxes. They're interested in employment. And so if you are in any of these communities and you are looking for help, please come to the SBA, but also go to your local government, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they are going to, let me be clear, want to bend over backwards for you to be successful, right? If there are contracting opportunities, most governments, not all, most governments are going to want to contract with local businesses, because that money's going back into your local ecosystem. If you could contract with someone, if you're in Maryland, you contract with someone in Illinois versus someone in Maryland, where do you want that money to go, right? Because they're going to likely hire people in Maryland, the tax is going to go to Maryland, et cetera. Get the point. And so we are but we're also collaborating with, and I mentioned earlier, chambers of commerce, the DC Chamber, the Maryland Chamber, the Maryland Black Chamber, the Northern Virginia Black Chamber. All of that's that ecosystem that you mentioned earlier. All of those pieces and parts work together to help small businesses. And when I'm talking to small businesses, yes, I'm talking about SBA and what we offer, but I'm also saying, hey, are you a part of a chamber? Particularly if you're trying to grow your business and build your network. And you then decide which chamber maybe makes sense, if any. But some people don't even know that that's an idea that they should consider, and it is, because that networking helps you understand, or helps you talk to someone about, oh, how did you decide which lawyer to go with, or what county firm did you go with, or I'm really stuck on when to do my brick and mortar. And those kinds of conversations you need to have with other small businesses, right? And a lot of small business owners end up being very isolated. And this is a business. This is a road on which isolation does not benefit you at all. You can't be an isolated business. That's an oxymoron. You're gonna need connections. You're gonna need customers. And how do you get customers? And so there you go. So working with all of the partners and that broader ecosystem to support small businesses, and I have to know who those folks are so that I can make the connections. I have an email thread where if there's something going on, even if it's not SBA related, but it can help the ecosystem. And that then I use my convening power to make sure that everybody knows about that, because that's how I help small businesses.
And we definitely appreciate that collaboration, because you're absolutely right. Networking, collaboration, going out and taking part in all of whatever organization you feel is going to benefit your business the best. Have those conversations, because that's definitely the way that the SBA, makes sure that their resources are getting communicated to the community, and any of those communities in the different pockets. And I think he covered some veterans, senior community, women, disenfranchised. But it's definitely through those partners. So in those community, collaborations, you talked about, capital readiness or lending. what steps does the office take to increase the visibility and helping to communicate accessibility to the SBA loans and services outside of just partnering, but when we're specifically talking about lending,
Yeah.
I thought I saw some trainings and webinars and but what other ways or steps is the administration taking to get that information out to small businesses?
No, thank you for asking that question. Any and all, quite frankly. One of the ways in which we do that is obviously partnering with community-based lenders like Wacif and LEDC and others, FSC First in Maryland, who not only are lenders, and I use the word lender as opposed to banker, and I've been trying to be consistent about that when I speak, because not all lenders are bankers, and that's the first thing that is important for small businesses to understand. If when I came into this world of SBA, I thought need a loan, go to a bank, quite frankly, or a credit union. I knew what a credit union was, but I didn't really understand the breadth of what capital readiness meant and how many players were in the field. And so that's one of the things that is so important and that we work on through our partners, through our outreach, is making sure that businesses understand the breadth of what that means. And so let me talk about that for just a second. Being a lender may not have a branch, right? I mean, some high end lending institutions, there's no branch for you to go to necessarily. There may be an office. There's no teller. They just lend because money doesn't care about any of that kind of stuff. They just want to once again know that you are able to pay back the money and that you are able to pay back the loan. Community-based lenders are maybe the opposite of that, right? A community-based lender obviously is interested in if you're able to pay back the loan because they have a fiduciary duty to make sure that their coffers stay full so that they can help other small businesses. But that's not all they care about. That's not the center. And so they're going to be looking at ways to maybe loan money to that small business that under normal circumstances, under normal rules, would not be what we call bankable, would not be loan ready. They also are going to then lean into helping those businesses that aren't by any measure loan ready to prepare them to be loan ready, right? That's one of the things that microloan programs do. Okay, so we're going to loan you $500 to maybe get a piece of equipment or to do something, and then you're going to pay that back, and then we're going to loan you $2,000, and then we're potentially going to loan you $10,000, and then you look a lot more ready, right? You as a small business have created a history for yourself if with no one else but that lender. But that also goes on your credit score. That also goes on your business record. But some people don't realize is that
They have a business record.
yeah, you have a business record or don't have a business record, as the case may be, right? So you have an 800 credit score. It's fantastic. That's you. Business, let's say you're a nascent business, or let's say that you don't understand how this works. And so you think, well, I should just pay for cash for everything and I'm gonna do this over on my credit cards, but then your business doesn't have a record. And so when you go to a lender, the lender's like, I don't this what's going on with your business. And so those are the types of things that we spend our people capital and our time capital trying to either prepare ourselves as programming or participate in other people's programming. A lot of what I do is not SBA programming. A lot of what I do is making sure that I'm at the Asian American Chamber of Commerce events. that I'm at the Hispanic American or Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, that I'm at the Black Chamber, that I'm working with DSLBD out of DC, that I'm working with the Chamber, the Economic Development Authority in Fairfax, that I'm in rooms with businesses that have already been put together, because we don't know all businesses, but these institutions and organizations in the community obviously know. Man, I'm at church groups.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
that's how you get. You asked me a question earlier about how do you get to women, how do you get to vets, how do you get to these communities that may otherwise be forgotten about, or not necessarily a part of the first thought. And that's how you do it. You go to where the people are,
You meet them where they are.
and you meet them where they are, and hopefully you speak a language that they understand. Because if I am only just saying words but I'm not communicating, then I'm not doing my job. And so that's my goal. And that's the goal of the SBA, is to be in all of those different in those different rooms. We're a very small agency. Probably not the smallest, but a really small agency. And so with a very big footprint. And so that's how we do it. It's being in the rooms
Yeah.
and trying to um, share the good news, as they say.
I'm so happy that you said that, because one of the biggest challenges I hear is the acronyms, the DLBC, the CNHD. I mean, just all, and people get
And I just use
lost
one.
and they get lost in the acronyms and they don't know where to go. So going to where they are and helping to bridge them into the conversation, and to know that there is nothing to be fearful of in stepping into this space, from all the formal names, the business development, district and all. They are support systems at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for doing that demystification just there as well. At all these different levels, they're there to support you as a small business. And if there's nothing that you take away from this conversation, is that you're not in this alone. You should not be in this alone, because that's not good business. And lean in to those entities like Wacif and others that are out there doing the work every day to support small businesses. It is to your benefit. And if everybody understands that time is money, then any time that you waste is money that you're not making or that you're losing. And so lean in, y'all. Lean in.
Yep. And you've already kind of talked about some of the common challenges and, maybe the not so common challenges that many entrepreneurs have. But I think also this last point, I just want to elevate to answer that question, which is going to where they are and talking about your business and your business need with the community support advocate is going to be your best resource to overcome any of the challenges that your business is facing and getting started.
Absolutely. I, I didn't, when I started this, I really didn't connect my nonprofit experience to this. We compartmentalize a great deal. And when I say we, I mean me. Sometimes, sometimes compartmentalize, oh, this was this and this was that. But I remember, it's a different world, but it's still a business, and I use that experience when I'm talking to small businesses, and I'm often talking about, the things that keep you up at night, payroll, working with that difficult customer, having an agreement with a partner who isn't showing up. How do you find a mentor? I can't afford a lawyer. How do I get legal advice? All of those types of things that I imagine keep people up at night. That's what those resource partners are for. And once again, that's at the SBA and any of those different levels, right? They can connect you with resources to help you figure that out, versus you, driving yourself crazy. Isn't it better to be able to talk to someone and have them say, oh, people come in and talk to us about that all the time. We have a whole file over here of resources that can help you with that. Right? That's what it's supposed to be, that release, right? Now they
Mhm.
can't run your business for you. They can't tell you, all of the answers. That you still have to be an entrepreneur. You still have to be, hardy and resilient and all of those
Visionary.
other
Yep.
things. But you don't have to recreate the wheel, right? They can say, yes, you do need a business license, but let me tell you this dirty little secret. There's this other form that you're going to have to fill out. So let's get that now. Let's prepare for that now. So that 3 months down the road, you're going, well, I'm ready to sign this contract or do X, Y, and Z. And they're saying that I'm not licensed fully in DC or Maryland or whatever. Wouldn't that be great to have that? Because the other dirty little secret is government can be messy and bureaucracies can be messy.
No, you did you say that? No. Yeah.
um you know every one hand doesn't always know what the other hand is doing, and
Mhm.
so talking to people who, one, may have owned or operated a business in the district where you are, or that had a robust government contracting business, or was a government contracting officer, talking to people um, at the Apex Accelerator, or once again SBDC or VBOC or what have you, Business Outreach Center. Um, wouldn't that be great to for you to not stumble? I'm all about learning from other people's experiences. Now you have to have your own, but I don't have to figure out how to fly the plane. I just need to figure out how to get to the airport, right?
Mhm.
How to get from point A to point B smoothly and efficiently. Because my business is not flying planes. My business is something else, but I need to
Yep,
avoid those potholes. So I will stop
absolutely.
with the mixing my metaphors.
Well, you have bridged us to a great point as we're wrapping up the open discussion and before we talk about
Okay.
some amazing future initiatives. One I am super excited about. It has been a long time coming. I just want to remind everybody that there will be some small time at the end for some
Absolutely.
Q&A. So if you have any questions, put it in the chat.
Q&A.
Our great, Leslie Guru is going to be elevating them. So definitely ask your questions. But as we close up the open session, please tell us about your future initiatives and innovation that the SBA has been putting together to help support these small businesses.
Thank you so much. I wanted to mention a couple things as a couple high SBA things, and I'm going to talk about some stuff that's going on specifically in WMADO, that I have a little control over. The one thing I wanted to mention is that for a lot of people out there listening, our certification programs have been down for the last few months. We have been working as an agency for seems like a very long time to unify all of our certification programs under one umbrella. We did that with our loan program a year and a half, 2 years ago, and now we're doing it with our contracting program. And what that means in English is that before today, if you were applying for that women's program, or you were applying for that vets program, or you were applying for the 8A business development program, or any of the programs, that was a siloed approach. If you were economically disadvantaged and a vet and in a hub zone, you needed to apply for 4 different programs through 4 different systems within the SBA, dealing with 4 different certification individuals and processes. And so we shut it down for the summer, and it opened up officially last week. And what that means now is if you are applying with the SBA for a certification program, there is one portal. You only have to fill out one application, and then we do all the work on the back end. So that means that if you
Mhm.
are a women that Asian American, and you apply, we look at the information that you provide, and we later then say you are able to be certified in all of these different programs, which is it's taking a lot of work. And the reason it's difficult, just so everybody understands, thank you for putting that in the chat there.
Didn't I say
Leslie.
she was amazing? Go, Leslie.
Amazing. The reason that's important is because it saves a lot of time for the individual business owner. The reason it was difficult is because, and not to get into too much government, but each one of those programs was under a different legislation. They had different rules. They had different time periods. They had different sort of triggers. And so we had to spend a lot of time working with the legislature and putting out policy information and putting out regs and changing things so that we could streamline because they didn't come at the same time. They didn't come into being at the same time. And that's why that was somewhat difficult. So that's number one. Number two, and this has been around for about a year now, but for those program participants that are in our 8A program, which is our economically and socially disadvantaged businesses. We have the new Earn to Grow program, which is geared toward providing, once again, that business acumen around government contracting. And that we're, super excited that is growing by leaps and bounds. We have a new vets piece of that, working with a VIP out of Montgomery County that's coming very, very soon. So if you're a vet and in that program,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, there's going to be a free cohort program that runs, I think, 2.5, 3 days. If you're local, you could stay in a hotel with the rest of them because you want to be a part of the cohort. And so I'm really excited about Earn to Grow. We really looked at the program that we had prior that was good by all measures, but we needed to lean in more. And so they've really tweaked their program to do more and to be more effective, be more efficient, and be more impactful. And so those are the two things, amongst many other things that SBA is doing. But those are the really important things. Locally, what I'm really excited about is that we launched our 8A business development program. And I know I've mentioned 8A several times during this conversation. I haven't actually said what it is. So let me say that first and then say why it's so important, what we're doing now for our 8A programs. 8A is once again, a business development program. Unlike veterans or women-owned or service-disabled veterans owned small businesses, which once you're certified, as long as you maintain whatever that certification requires. So if you're a women small business and you own a small business, you can prove that you are a women-owned small business and it's not a front company. It's not your husband's business, it's not your kid's business, but it's your business and that you are owner occupier of it, then you're certified, and that just remains as long as the business remains. 8A is different. 8A is a business development program that lasts 9 years, right? And so if you are 2 years old and you meet all of the other qualifications, and 2 years is not necessarily enough time, but that's the minimum, then you get into this 9-year program that allows you access to those smaller pools of competition once again, because the government has an opportunity. Government contractor says, "Oh, we want to put this contract in the 8A program, and only 8A businesses can apply for it." Or B, we can sole source it, which means that once again, if you show up with that innovation, you make the contacts, you make you work the system. Quite frankly, you can get a sole source contract. Well, that's only 9 years. And those 9 years go by really, really fast.
Can you
Um,
renew?
you cannot renew. It is a
Uh,
9-year program. So
that's
that's
it.
why I say that 2 years is the minimum, but that's not necessarily when you should do it, because you want to hit the ground running and you want to take advantage of all those 9 years of limited competition. What I say is you want people to be checking for you when you get into the 8A program. You want folks, and why folks, let me be very specific, government contracting officers and or government program officials saying, this woman has great reputation, has a history, we can trust her to do this, to run this contract. And how do you do that? Well, you potentially do subcontracting prior to that. You are a known entity in the universe, right? You know, you are an expert in the world and people know that. They know who you are and what you're about versus I'm a new company. I am going to the government saying I'm an 8A, but no one knows who you are and they don't understand what you are bringing to the table.
True.
Because just like bankers and lenders, let me use the word, just like lenders, government agencies are risk averse, right? You're putting out a $300 million contract or, you know, a large $1 billion contract from DOD. You're not trying to figure out if this person or persons can do the work. You want to go with known entities, which is why it's difficult, quite frankly, for new government contractors to get into that business, to get into government contracting as a prime. Sometimes it's difficult to get in as a subcontractor, which is
Yeah.
why I in my office have put together this program. And so it is called the 8A Business Development Series. We kicked it off. We're doing it in partnership with Bowie Innovation Center, which is located at Bowie in Bowie City, and on the campus of Bowie, although it's not part of the Bowie uh, University.
It's insane.
It's a separate entity. And we're also partnering with Busboys and Poets. So all of the events will be at Busboys and Poet restaurants. I was literally sitting in Busboys one day going, they're in every one of my regions and they have an auditorium and they have good food and it's comfortable and it's
It's a
not,
win-win.
yeah, it's a win-win. So we're doing that. That's a 2-year initial program that we have. The first one was for small businesses in 8A that are 1 to 3 years. The second one will be in the end of January, early February for 4 to 6 because they're transition and keys and you have to have a diversity of contracts that are in the program and out of the program in the middle. And by the end, our 7 to 9 years, you know, at the end of the program, you're out of the 8A program. And so what does that look like? Some people hit a cliff. Some people end up selling their business because they haven't managed, I won't say they failed, but they haven't managed to get enough business outside of the 8A or to entrench themselves deep enough in federal contracting to continue. And so we want to help them figure out that transition so that they can continue to be successful. And that's what that program is about. The last thing I would say about the program that's really important is this is small businesses in the program talking to other small businesses in the program. We had such a great conversation. We had 4 speakers at the last one that had managed to do between $20 million and $100 million a year in contracts. And why it was important is they were able to talk to those new and nascent 8As about the process. And each one of them had a different process. But that was important for them to see the path. Once again, you should not be doing this in an insular fashion, just sort of
Yeah.
talking to yourself, because none of this is intuitive. You should not wake up knowing how to run a business unless you come from a family of businesses or you come from a family of entrepreneurs. None of this stuff is intuitive, and so you really do need to lean into the acumen. You really do need to lean into learning from others and allowing yourself to build those relationships and ask questions. And let me tell you, if running a business, a bakery, um, uh, uh, a bookstore is not intuitive, government contracting is absolutely intuitive. It is a world all on its own with lots of rules and regulations
A
and
lot of caveats, a lot of ebb and flows, a lot of secret compartments. Yeah.
yes, yeah, yes,
Yeah.
all the above. And so that's what we're here to do. And I've been doing this for 3 years and I've waited to launch this. And this is just phase one. My goal is for us to be able to do this at a very large scale. Right now we're doing 75 to 100 room auditoriums. My goal is that we will be able to get hundreds of people in rooms together do this conversation, to do this education, but also to do the networking. Because the networking is key to, for me, is part of the stool.
Yeah.
Is getting these small businesses to get these 8As in rooms so that they are once again demystifying together.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because we have nearly 1,000 8As, a fourth of the portfolio just in my office. Of the 4,000 or so 8As in the country, about 1,000, nearly 1,000 of them are in this area. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we
yes,
definitely will share this information, to get it out so that as you continue to grow, people will know that this is a resource. So
please and thank
I
you.
don't know if Leslie's able to put it in the chat, but we'll definitely send it afterwards. We might have time for about 2 questions if we can do them quickly. If there are more questions than that, we will take note of them and work to answer and send them to everyone after the podcast. So Leslie, do we have any questions in the chat?
Yes, there's one question. I'll also put it in the chat so folks can see it. But the question was if you could share any success stories of any small businesses in the DMV area that have benefited from the SBA support.
Wow, there's so many.
So many.
Yeah, there really are so many. But I will share one that supports my theory that that SCORE and the WBC and the SBDC and the VBOX are very helpful, and that is small business owner who was part of the speakers that spoke a couple weeks ago. Um, was an attorney, was a partner in a small law firm, wanted to get into government contracting, wasn't really sure how to do it, wasn't sure how to navigate that, got a SCORE mentor through the process, worked with that SCORE mentor, and now has that $20 million a year portfolio and is growing. Um, he leveraged those programs to ask the questions that he did not know the answers to have someone mentor him through the process, and that's where he got. He mentions, and I'll keep this short. He mentions that when he started, he wrote down that he was hoping to make $500,000 a year. That was his goal because he didn't know that it could be more or higher. And his mentor at SCORE worked with him, and I was honored to be with him and that mentor last year when they awarded him a successful accolade for his growth in his business. So it does work, it does happen, and it continues to grow businesses. Another question, if we have time.
I think we have one more, which I think is a great way to end. Few words of wisdom from the great Larry Webb.
Words of wisdom. I will keep it as short as possible. I kind of said it before, running a business is not intuitive. And so please, please, please take advantage of these resources. Please take advantage of Wacif. Please go to the website to learn more about not only what the Women's Business Center does, which is the Capital Region Women's Business Center, but all the other programs that Wacif has, because that's how you grow your business. It is important that you realize as a small business owner that there are going to be some turning points and you're going to have to figure out how to navigate those. And those turning points are going to be when you go from maybe a one person small business to when you need to hire someone. Because as important as it is for you to be a subject matter expert, you're never going to grow or scale your business if you're the only subject matter expert, because you're not going to be able to go out and work on the business. You're only going to be able to work in the business. And so for some people, that's great. Maybe you don't ever want to hire anybody. Maybe you don't want to scale your business. Their little secret, businesses that don't scale don't typically last very long. And so how do you leverage? When do you hire someone else? When do you create other experts so that you can then go out and and capture business? When do you go from $500,000 to $1 million when you go from 1 to 2. This is what those resource partners can help you do, is figure out those steps. When do you need an in-house accountant versus the bookkeeper?
Mm.
Those are the types of things, because when you're starting out, it may seem like I just need to get from point A to point B, and that may be true. But there are a lot of points on that trail, and growing a business, leaning into those successes is important. The last thing I will mention is key. If you do not have a relationship with a lender and you're a small business, begin one today. Talk to a resource partner, go to your local bank, start there. But you want to figure out how that process is going to work for you. Are you bankable today? Can I be bankable a year from now if I'm not? And having a lender on speed dial. You do not want an 800 number if you're running a business. You want to be able to call someone who knows your business and who knows about your business and what you're trying to do. If you're trying to hit payroll, right? If you're trying to get a piece of equipment, you don't want to be calling the customer service line. And that's where you need to go. And if you're not there now, that's okay. That's where you want to be. You want to be able to call Susan or Bob or Kamika or Jose or whomever. You want to be able to call those folks and say, hey, I need this money today. That's where I'll leave you.
Well, Mr. Webb, I cannot thank you enough for all of this information and your insight, as well as sharing those amazing resources that are now available to all business owners. Please check it out. I hope you understand the importance of working with your support system and helping you navigate this amazing journey that you are now on into becoming a business owner. Leslie, was great to put some resources in the chat, including some trainings that Wacif offers for free. If there's anything about lending, about capital readiness that you want to find out information about, you can go and take some classes, as well as reach out to me at the Women's Business Center so we can start having a conversation and getting you connected. And make sure to check out the SBA website. This session will be on demand. So come back in about a day or so and check the website if there's anything that you missed. But again, we thank you for your time today, and we look forward to our growing partnership because we have some amazing things in store.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fantastic, great conversation. And I look forward to doing it again sometime.
Absolutely. All right, guys, goodbye. I'll see you on the next session. Have a good day.
Have a great day, everyone.